What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get a city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1373 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success. Season 5 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego and Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, returning to Toronto Mic'd, is Mike Stafford.
By unpopular demand.
Actually, that's not a joke. I did get a note from a Judy Lott, and it was a lovely note. And Judy was basically like worried about you because of Facebook posts that you've been posting, and she was asking me all these questions. The best way to find out how Mike Stafford is doing is to get Mike Stafford in the basement. So before we dive into all that, though, I was chatting with you about FOTM Hall of Famer Peter Gross, and he's going to come on in.
That's why I'm here, man.
That's why you're here.
I've never met Peter.
Is that right?
Yeah. No, I mean, worked in the business, I think he's a little longer in the tooth than I am.
I'd put him at 73, maybe.
Yeah, but I've never had a chance to meet Peter, but I heard Peter was coming in. I won't be able to see him, I'm sure, but I have 5 favorite movies of all time. Now, today it could be Local Hero, which is a fantastic film with Burt Lancaster.
I haven't even seen that movie.
Yeah, it's terrific. Mark Knopfler did the soundtrack. Goodfellas would be on a Sunday. Going Down the Road would be up there. It's a documentary. It's about as real a film as you'll ever see. Pauline Kael loved it. Roger Ebert loved it. 1969, I think, filmed in Toronto.
1970,
1970.
Yeah.
Okay. Pete and Buddy there. And, of course, the great satire spoof they did on SCTV.
Wasn't that amazing?
Oh,
see, I'm a big fan of
Lawyer and
Jobs,
Doctor and Jobs.
And they used the Stompin' Tom song, and it's so perfect with the Stompin' Tom.
There's the Yonge Street song when they're
right.
Let's go up Yonge Street. Donald Shabib passed recently, the director of Going Down the Road, and I think I'm probably one of the few people in a non-YouTube way on a Saturday night back in the 70s when the CBC would just blow on some Canadian film, a film called Rip Off.
Okay, I'm glad you're bringing up Rip Off. What did you think of Rip Off? The follow-up, by the way, the Donald Shabib follow-up to Going Down the Road.
Unfortunately, I think it was a film of its time. A lot of groovies, far outs and stuff like that. And of course, just post what was the motorcycle? Easy Rider.
Easy Rider.
And we got to make a kid's film.
Right.
It's not very good, but Peter's in it.
He plays
Richie.
So that's why Peter's dropping by, because we lost Donald Shabib, and Peter's going to come in and talk about his relationship with Donald, because Peter was in Rip Off. When, I think a couple of winters ago, maybe summers ago, I don't know, a couple of years ago, Peter came over and we had Donald Shabib on Toronto Mic'd because Peter recorded phone conversations with Donald about Rip Off. Like, there's literally, like, if you are bored one day, Michael Stafford, there is the definitive deep dive into Rip Off featuring Donald Shabib and Peter Gross in the Toronto Mic'd feed. So that's some homework for you.
It's getting a listen. Absolutely, it is. He played Richie. Don Scardino, who I think plays Mike, he is now a top television director. Wow. Did 30 Rocks. He's won a couple of Emmys and stuff like that. Didn't have much of an acting career. Later married Pamela Blair, who was an actress in the original cast of Chorus Line. She played Val, who sings Tits and Ass. So just very cool that Peter Gross is coming in. And please
you're going to miss him by this much.
Yeah.
Because he'll be here at 1 o'clock.
That's not too much. That's not too bad.
But what that photo would break the internet if I could get a photo of Mike Stafford with Peter Gross. It's two of our greatest. And I'll say this, even though, let me check the clock here to get this right, but we've only been talking for 5 minutes, Michael. And Michael, I'm calling you Michael. That's respect.
It's fine. Yeah,
I can go either way too.
Kind of like that.
I get a little nervous when I'm called Michael, like I got pulled over for speeding or something like that. But okay. So Mike, even listening to you in the headphones for 5 minutes, I'm like, I miss this voice and I miss you've got a vast pop culture knowledge. I used to tune in for Simpsons trivia, okay, because I love that so much. And where else am I going to get that fix, right? Although now with podcasts, there's probably a couple of places to go. But back then, no. But I will say it is great to hear your pipes, and I have a million questions. Are you comfortable?
Absolutely, sir. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, and
Where's the beer?
Sir makes me. Do you want me to get you a beer?
I'll have a beer.
Okay, so so would you drink? Because I'm thinking it's 11 o'clock, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Okay, ale, lager, or IPA?
Lager.
Okay, you're gonna get a lager. I'm gonna run up and do it. But I don't feel like editing this episode, so you'll have to say something to the listeners now while I'm gone. I'll be right back.
Great Lakes Brewery is a iconic institution. Woo! I think it makes the west part of Toronto exactly what the west Toronto part should be. And that is filled with delicious, crafted, you know what? When this whole, beer store thing collapses, and apparently it's going to in a few years, I predict they are going to be even huger than they are right now. And I just made that word up because Mike's upstairs getting me a beer. And I haven't really had a chance to, it's been 2.5 years where I've had to maybe fill because the phones aren't working very well, et cetera, et cetera.
Could you pop it on the mic?
Yeah.
Oh, below the mic.
Below the mic, yeah. My technique has dropped a bit as well, Michael. But
cheers to you.
GLB, and I'll tell you, the Palma passed as soon as you said Palma. Oh, man. You hooked me up with one for my wife's birthday.
Tell me about that, because I want to shout out Anthony Petrucci at Palma Pasta, because I literally, when I saw your car pull into the driveway, I was on the phone with Anthony. His family owns Palma Pasta, the 4 locations. We're having TMLX 14 at Palma's Kitchen on December 9th from noon to 3 p.m. You, of course, Mike, you're invited. We're all going to get complimentary pasta, and we're going to get fresh beer from Great Lakes. Tell me about your experience with Anthony, and then I have an exciting announcement for you.
Absolutely. No, it was my wife's birthday was coming up. When I brought the Palma back from, episode 1250, I forget when that was recorded.
1250. I can tell you, it was a little over 6 months ago.
Okay. Of course, I got the Palma pasta, took it home. I'm not blowing smoke here, Anthony or Mike. It was, according to Jody, and she knows her pasta.
Right.
It was the best lasagna she has ever had.
Speaking of Peter Gross, he says this too. Any chance he gets, I think that's why he pops over so often. He absolutely adores it, and everybody who tries it. Shout out to Peter Myers. That's Mike Myers' brother, Paul Myers' brother, who often on Twitter lets me know that his family, that's it. It's Palma Pasta. So here's the exciting news for you before we get to Judy Lott's note, and we can find out what's going on with you. I don't know. In fact, this will come out in our conversation, but I have a feeling you're living in a hotel. Is that possible?
We're in a motel right now.
Okay, so
one of those delicious examples up in Dundas in Mississauga.
Well, we're gonna get into that, like why and all that. Except my thought was, and you'll tell me, Mike, you're nuts, but you don't have an oven in there, do you?
We have a microwave.
Okay, so here's where I was on the phone with Anthony, because I could give you this big block of frozen lasagna, and then I'm like, how's Mike going to prepare this for the family? But this is even better, okay? Mm-hmm. You tell me when you can get to to Palma's Kitchen, and Anthony's going to have a prepared hot meal for the Stafford family. In fact, you can invite friends and people over. There's going to be a lot of this. But you're going to get a whole bunch of delicious Palma pasta, courtesy of Anthony Petrucci. No one else has had this offer. It's just you, Mike. Everybody and that's a great frozen lasagna. But for you, it's going to be much, much more. That'll help things, hopefully.
It's a beautiful place Anthony has. I got a chance to meet him because I guess the end of the story was I hooked up with you and said, can I find out where Palma, where do I get this stuff?
Right.
And you told me about Anthony, and I met him. We sat down, had a good chat for about a half an hour, and walked out with a delicious birthday lasagna.
Okay, well, you're going to get more treats from Paul Mapazza. He's a gentleman.
He is.
Love that man. He's also, I'll just throw this in there. We were just chatting, and he's looking forward to listening to Peter Kent. Peter Kent was here yesterday. What an amazing story that was. He was just full of the wild stories from his career, not only in media, which was, he used to anchor the National, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
He took over for Lloyd Robertson.
Global for years.
Absolutely. And then he became a politician and a Harper MP, and he was the environment minister. And we had a fantastic chat. So I'm just going to let people know that Peter Kent, very interesting.
Get into the Middle East a lot?
Big time, because he's a very, very big time. He follows it very closely, and he at NBC they did with the Yom Kippur War. There was a 20-year anniversary thing they did in '87, and he's been following it very closely. So we got to do that.
Do you remember his brother, the Stud Scud?
We talked about Arthur too.
Yeah,
of course. He's brothers the Studs. I'm old enough to remember Scud Stud. Okay, so Judy. Here's what Judy wrote, and then I'll walk you through it. I'll even revisit 6 months ago. Okay. Judy Lott is her name. 2 T's on Lott. Hi, Mike. I am a regular listener to your podcast. That's how you get me to be interested, Mike. You just got to put that first line. I'm a regular. Now I know I need to pay attention. This is somebody I care about. Okay. I am a regular listener to your podcast and was wondering if you have seen Mike Stafford's Facebook post just yesterday. He's in a real financial bind, and he also hinted there were health issues with his family. In brackets, she puts in cancer. I am a huge Stafford fan since his days at CFNY and would be heartbroken if he is sick. Maybe he would do your podcast again for a 4th time for an update. Maybe it's too private a topic, a couple of question marks. Thanks, Mike. So that note came in. Mm-hmm. Now you're here. Just to give this a little context before we hear more of your great voice and my mediocre voice. May 4th, 2023, that's over 6 months ago. That's when you dropped by and we discussed your broken neck, why you deleted your Twitter account, why you were fired by AM 640, how you've been doing since, and what's next for you. And we even addressed the turd in the basement comment, and now we're friends. We got through that. So let's hear from you. I guess before we get the specifics, how did you feel after that episode? Because I got so much feedback from episode 1250. That's your episode.
It was pretty cathartic, to be truthful, Mike, for a couple of reasons. One, it was taking me on the drive that I used to take for 20 years. Well, 12 since I lived in Mississauga, to actually sitting down and opening up with you. I got a tremendous amount of response, a lot of it good. Quite honestly, some of it was, you got what you deserved, you bastard, whatever. Yeah. I worked in radio for 40 years. I'm used to that.
It was polarizing.
Yeah, it was somewhat polarizing. And the situation, unfortunately, went from not good to bad.
So it got worse since 6 months ago. Okay, so we're gonna give this more context. So, from my perspective, people like when there's a interesting episode. Not that they're not all interesting, but some episodes get more feedback than others. Yours got a ton of feedback, and it was very polarizing. Like from my perspective, there were these 2 camps. One camp believed you were done dirty by Corus, and you're entitled to something, and I'm actually in that camp for what it's worth. And then there's a camp, and I won't name names, but people you know, and there's people who lack compassion. They feel that this is self-inflicted, and you got what you deserve, and so there's the 2 polarizing camps, and I heard from both camps. I urge people listening to us now, if they haven't heard it yet, go back to 1250. That's like the prequel, and then you can come back to this episode. But in that episode, we talked about how you were fired with cause by Corus. So they didn't give you any money. They just sort of booted you out after 20 years. But you had no money to pay up front for a lawyer. So my first question, Mr. Stafford, so you're on the stand now. Mm-hmm. Is there any update at all regarding Corus and any legal channels to receive some severance that you're entitled to, in my humble opinion?
All right. Well, we talked on the show how I could not afford what's called a retainer, how in employment law, very few employment lawyers work on what's called contingency, which you'll remember from Lionel Hutz.
Attorney at law.
Contingency, no money up front, no money down. That was what it is. Right. Anyway, I got a... Can I mention who contacted me?
Oh my God, yeah, of course.
Lorne Honickman.
FOTM Lorne Honickman, who listens, and great. He was a client for some time, and he might be again, but great friend. I've used him when I had legal issues with this show, and just a gentleman and a scholar and a great guy, Lorne Honickman.
Loved him when he was in TV for all those years, and also worked with him at 640. He filled in for a lot, and phone call out of the blue one day from Lorne. That voice, you can't mistake it, Michael.
Well, not out of the blue, right? Because he heard episode 1250.
Well, he did hear it. He did hear it, absolutely.
Because I got a call, too, from Lorne after
He
that.
reached out and he said, Mike, you are running out of time.
Right.
June 9th would have been my date of termination. You have 2 years.
Wow.
And we taped May 4th?
It was May 4th.
Yeah.
May the 4th be with you.
He said, Mike, I have a friend. His name is Justin. I'll just give his first name. He's young. He's eager. He's just gone out on his own. He used to work with, and he speaks of him very highly, Lior Samfiru, who I obviously would have had represent me, except he would have been in conflict because he's on Corus. He hooked me up with Justin, and Lorne, you saved me there, brother. Unfortunately, this is a drag of a process. All summer, obviously summer is summer anyway in the legal profession. I don't want to get into the specifics of where we are, but it is a slower process than I thought it would be.
But it's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
Okay.
And the thing is, and this is the key here, thank you to you and to Lorne and eventually to Justin for taking the case. I could be sitting here saying, time's up. At least now I have some hope. I mean, they're fighting it, obviously. It's a company that is in severe financial trouble, as we all know. I mean, when I started working there, their stock was $34. Now I think it's just $1.
Right.
My biggest fear is they're going to declare bankruptcy and I'm screwed, but that's not. They're too big for that. Too big to fail that way.
Yeah, I've heard that story before. But.
Yeah. So the update from a legal standpoint is good. And that's the best news I can bring into this basement, my friend.
Okay, so we start with the good news, and then we get to the shitty news. Okay,
yeah.
But that's good news because there was a clock ticking that you didn't even know about that clock, right? There's also 2 years to
vaguely,
file. Okay,
yeah.
So we talked on May 4th, and you had only a little bit of time. And again, much love to Lorne Honickman. Love this guy. Just, if you ever want to talk Bob Dylan with somebody, Lorne's your guy.
Oh, he'll bore you.
For Dylan's 80th birthday, Lorne came on over and we just talked Dylan for like 90 minutes. I don't know. If you love Dylan, you'll love that episode. So Lorne Honickman hears the episode, wants to help you, gets his Justin and Justin works with you. So you do get in under the wire. This is ongoing, but no money from Corus has reached your bank account.
Not a dime. No, I mean, they've got a pretty respected firm, obviously backing them. I mean, they're a big company. They have to, but the fact that the ball got rolling is
right. At least there's hope.
And I didn't have to front thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean,
right.
It'll be contingency. They'll take their
Look,
whatever.
I'm
going to
send a large frozen lasagna to this Justin character. Okay. I don't even know who Justin's last name myself. Maybe I'll find out later. But Justin, if you're listening right now. Send me a note because we'll get you the frozen lasagna and then you get the fresh pasta. From
Absolutely.
Anthony.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're starting on such a positive note here. Where do I go next? Okay, so let me go to this next. Okay, so at the time, of course, what is your ailment? Curvature of the spine?
Ankylosing spondylitis.
Okay.
That's the spine is fused. Then the neck breaking didn't help that.
Right, because you broke your neck, and we talked all about this in 1250.
Yeah.
But so it's difficult for you to work. I mean, you can't go roofing or whatever.
I can't. I cannot. I mean, I've got accessible parking and stuff like that. It kills me because my wife loves to go out for walks, and I can't go more than 30 yards. Well, you see me when you came out to shake my hand in your driveway. I'm just kind of bent over. Right. So standing, anything physical, I can't do it. And the other thing too is one of the things when we first did this in 1250.
Yeah.
People were saying, Mike, do a podcast.
Right.
You don't, this man sitting right across from me understands technically and the fact that the saturation of the market right now, I mean, that's why you do dig and work with,
I work
your
hard,
stats.
but I'm no Mike Stafford. Like you have a name in this market, you've got a legacy, and you have those pipes.
I don't have these 3 fantastic mics and your setup and a house. a place to live.
We're going to get to.
That,
we've
yes,
teased it already.
yes.
Okay, so after episode 1250, I did hear, so remember, I heard from Lauren, like the next morning, my phone starts beeping, beep, 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 beep. People are like, I got to help this guy. So we need an answer to this one. So I did get I did hear from an FOTM, I won't name him, but an FOTM who owns radio stations. That should narrow it down, okay?
Yeah.
How many FOTMs own radio stations? So he had this idea that if I could help you with a USB mic, which I would have happily done, that you could do some voiceover work remotely for his radio station. So my question to you, Mike Stafford, did that ever come to fruition? Did you ever hear from this gentleman?
No, I did. I know who you're talking about. And
if you want to name him, you can
John.
name him. Yeah, so John Pohl, who's also great, much like Lauren, a wonderful FOTM. He listens, he heard you, he wanted to help. What happened with that?
Nothing, because at the time, and this is now where I am, if I'm podcasting, I'm doing it from the lobby of a motel on Dundas.
Right.
Things were just falling apart around me. We had a landlord, and it's not his fault. He wanted to rebuild. I mean, we lived in the Mineola section of Mississauga, including the old house, which has now been destroyed and being rebuilt. He was tearing it down. He wanted us out.
Right.
We had people did reach out and help me out, but financially, on a month-to-month basis, I could not continue. Our lease had ended. We only had a 6-month lease.
Mm-hmm.
And, eventually, we were asked to leave.
So he evicted you and your family.
We were evicted. Yeah, we were evicted.
So
and fair and square to him.
Right.
I won't be writing him Christmas cards, but it's tough.
He didn't break any laws. It's
no.
Bad luck on top of bad luck.
Straight on top of
the
landlord tenant. When you sign a lease, you sign a lease.
Right. Okay, so basically you get a little notice, I guess, and they're like, you got to go somewhere, but give us at this point we might as well give us the real talk here, because you're in a hotel, so there was nowhere else to. I mean, we're in a rent crisis in the GTA. I think a motel might be cheaper. I don't know, but
not this one.
Not this one. Okay, so what happened? You just basically it's like get out of here, and then you're like I have nowhere to go, and you end up at a motel.
Basically, the two guys show up from the bailiff's office and say you've got 15 minutes to get your stuff together, and take what you can. The rest of it's still there. The house. I don't think the permit process was as far advanced as he claimed, but it was his place. I'm not even going to worry about that anymore. Basically, we're, we got to find something.
And who's we? Remind us. Who is the we?
Well, there's my wife, Jody, and her son, my stepson, who is 15. He's at his dad's right now. But just dealing with Jody and I,
right.
That's where we are. I mean, it's some good days, but it's not exactly an uplifting way to live.
So where's your stuff?
Stuff is there still, but we have stuff with us. Anyway, all that stuff aside, we're in a state of limbo right now. I've already been in contact with Peel Social Services. They're swamped.
I can imagine.
They're 300% capacity for shelter space and stuff like that. And
right. And I mean, again, if these questions are out of bounds, just tell me. But so does Jody work?
No, we'd be into that right now.
Okay. So here, so obviously we started with the good news, which is there's a puncher's chance of something going down with Corus. It's a long process, and there's not a dime yet from Corus, and we got that news. Now we're learning you've been evicted from the home you were renting in Mississauga, and you're living in a motel. Okay, why not just throw all the shit out there? Okay. So how is the physical health of the Stafford family that we're
my situation is whatever it is what it is. In August, Jody started having some issues with her kidney. We assumed it was a kidney stone. My mother had them constantly. Rest in peace, Mom. We went to the hospital. It was my birthday, August 10th. Went to Trillium on Queensway. She was so bad she actually collapsed to the floor in ER with the pain.
Wow.
I've never had one of these things. Apparently, they're a bastard. She was bleeding and stuff you don't have to get into, but We just thought it was a kidney stone, and they did too, I think, at first.
Right.
They sent her home, gave her some painkillers, gave her some antibiotics for an infection. 3 nights later, we're back. And this is like twice as bad, where they actually had to actually give her hydromorphone, and I was on that with my broken neck. That's some killer stuff. They CT'd her because the first time we were there, it was by 6 a.m. They just said, just go home. If this clears up and the pain goes away, then it's a stone. It obviously didn't. Right. They gave her a CT scan, and the doctor came back. And they were fantastic. I mean, I know there's a lot of shit in the healthcare system, but man, there's a lot of good stories too. Anyway, the ER doctor came back and said, "We're a little concerned, Jody. We found a mass on your right kidney, and it doesn't look good. We're gonna book you with a urologist who is also an oncologist up at Credit Valley." And she went in and she got more scans. She went and met this doctor who we've become very close to. And he called her in, and I came in with her into his office, and he said, "Yeah, it's cancer." He says, I see it all the time. It's on the kidney. But we're concerned, Jody, because kidney cancer is not a problem usually. What they usually do is they just take the kidney out. You've got another one.
Right.
But we're concerned that there might be some involvement up in the chest area. And then we didn't hear back. We had more scans in September, more in October. Then she got a phone call. No, she got a call to confirm the kidney removal was going to happen at Queensway, or at Credit Valley rather, on December 14th. Okay, great. We'll have to leave the motel, and Jody was going to spend a couple of nights in hospital. Then she got a call back from the oncologist, the urologist. And he said, "We've had to postpone the surgery. We are very concerned about some shadows on the lung and on the lymph node, which is metastasization, obviously." Right. And that's what you don't want to hear. He explained that the kidney mass is like the mothership. He says, "I'm not really worried about it. I'm just going to yank it out. But if it has moved into the lungs or in the lymph nodes," and they don't know that yet, it's just suspected. She's got a scan scheduled, I think, next week.
Okay.
So she does have cancer, but she's been getting the good news, and then she was all Jones to go for this, kidney removal. And to have it postponed like that, again, these people are amazing, and I know what they do, what they have to do. There's a lot of questions you have, like, why is it only on the right side and stuff like that? But yeah, that's where we are, Mike.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear this. Like, this is awful, awful news, and it's awful news if everything else is going swimmingly. Like, if everything else in your life is aces, this is shitty news. And next week I hope things go well with at the hospital and you find out it's just in the kidney. That's best case scenario at this point, right?
Just take it out and let the other one. Yeah. My grandmother lived on one her whole life, but it's just been a bad year. I mean, one of my good friends, you remember Supriya?
Of course.
Did you hear the news about her husband?
Of course I did. Yes, of course. Terrible.
Yeah. Just a wonderful man, 40 years of age, lung cancer, didn't smoke.
Right.
Anyway, so that's where we are physically, you said. Mentally,
okay,
I wouldn't even go in that shithole.
I'll make time for the mental discussion here. Okay, so, all right, so does that answer? So I asked earlier, like, does Jody work? But Jody's got a very serious health crisis going on. Is she able to work right now, or no? Okay, no. So there's no money coming into the family. Got to get the 15-year-old out there. We'll get him a gig.
God love him. I mean, he's 15. He's gonna be 16 in March, and he's got no privacy. You know what they're like. You've got 80 of them.
Well, 2 of them have hit that age already.
Yeah.
It's true. So he's at his dad's sometimes, and then sometimes
we're working on that right now. Trying to deal with the constant calls. It's the hospital. Oh, it's doctor this. Oh, it's doctor that.
In this hotel again,
motel.
Sorry, yeah, I'm hotel, motel, holiday inn.
You need drugs, Michael? Do you need to find yourself the services of a woman, Michael? My neighbors. You set me up with Lauren Honickman. You set me up with Justin. You want a little crack, dude? The guy's on the right side of me. You want a lovely lady? No questions asked. Dude on the left side of me.
Oh, it's all going on at this Dundas.
Oh,
motel.
this is It's
why is it so expensive? I feel like you should get a crack motel discount.
Oh,
it's just Jody
did her best.
This is unsustainable. Like
it is.
So, how long you've been in the motel for? How long?
I don't know.
It's too long.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Like, what's the plan? I know you have the social services. You mentioned they're jammed or whatever. Like, it's expensive enough in the motel. We need to find the Stafford family shelter. This is like one of your basic human rights.
The best note I got from my lawyer this week, I should mention, when I said, "What's the update?" and he said, "I should have an update very soon." Now it's Saturday, but I know he reached out to the opposing attorneys, and I know they're soulless, godless bastards.
Yes, they are, like Mr. Burns' lawyers.
Exactly. But he did reach out and say, "Look, this is the situation this guy is in. I know they don't want Corus to have to pay a dime, but at least he reached out to them." So I don't know. Maybe.
So is the hope that maybe Corus will settle so some money can find its way to you, so you could take care of the family.
That would be the last page of my novel. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Because I guess it's been 6 months since your last visit, and I keep thinking that this will end with a happy ending, but it's getting worse, Mike. So I'm worried we're going the wrong direction here.
Yeah.
So
well, that's where the mental thing comes in.
Well, okay, so we're gonna get to that. Let me just really quickly shout out some partners that make this real talk possible. So we've talked GLB. I hope it'll help. I can send you home with some Great Lakes beer, obviously, and we're going to arrange with Anthony for the Palma pasta. All of it. That's right.
All of it.
And if you do, that's so I can do that for sure. I do have this. Maybe the 15-year-old would like this, but it's you might like it too, of course. A wireless speaker. It's that can be in the stocking. How's that, a stocking stuffer? But that is a quality Bluetooth speaker from Moneris. And the intent is that you can listen to season 5 of Yes, We Are Open, which is an award-winning podcast by Moneris, hosted by Al Grego. He was here what week are we in? He was here like a few days ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. So we kicked out jams related to season 5. Always interesting.
Christ, do you need a producer? I got track
well,
of it.
It wasn't yesterday, Mike.
Okay, 2 days
Peter
ago.
Kent was yesterday.
Yes.
It was a couple days ago. And then Michelle McAdory's in the mix. It gets, when you do a lot of these
you got a nice kiss from her.
You know what? It was a spicy chat. Like, I'll admit, it was like there was a good chemistry in that chat. So I had to IP block my wife from listening to Michelle McAdory. I didn't kiss her back, but okay. But she was actually really great. We talked about Crash.
And when I do want to feel better, by the way, I do re-roll your Molly Johnson interview.
She's always promoting her Kensington Jazz Festival, and often she asks Eric Alper to be her publicist. This is something. So Eric and I have a great relationship, and he loves putting people on the show. But it's always, sometimes we chat privately, me and Eric, and not so private that I'm talking about now. Like, should we do a part 2? And we always end up, nah. Like, this is where we always end up. But I always have a moment where, like, okay, she could visit again and we could talk about what happened, and but then we always end up like, let's not do that. So we'll just leave the Molly as a one and done.
I hear you.
She's got the Order of Canada, by the way. Big deal, Molly. And every time she comes up on the show, everyone's like, oh, she's wonderful. What are your thoughts on Buffy? I have to say, I'm on Facebook with a lot of people who are FOTMs, and a lot of them, and I won't name them, but there's a number of them who are very much like, leave Buffy alone. She's a talented, wonderful artist who has done more for Indigenous people than you ever will. None of this matters. The CBC should be ashamed. Fifth Estate, what's wrong with you going after our angel Buffy? This is a common sentiment. I can't wait to hear your take on it. Except my take on this is, I loved Buffy so much, but she's been lying to us for decades, and that's bullshit. And I wish she'd give back the Order of Canada. But what do you think, Mike Stafford?
I truly, and I've talked to this with Jody and stuff, I just don't give a shit. She's 82. But the one thing I didn't like was how she tried to torpedo her brother.
Right. Right.
With some very,
a handwritten note. I will go public about you being a pedophile if you pursue this. Which turns out he was pursuing the truth.
He was. That's all he was doing. I mean, at the end of the day, does it affect me given the circumstances I'm in?
No.
But it's not the first time either. You know how many Italian-American actors, Sicilians, played natives? Iron Eyes Cody.
Right. And you see the guy, like, when the garbage by the freeway or whatever, he's got the tear in his eye, of course. And yes, right. And also, when Marlon Brando won the Oscar. And
Sasheen.
Right. She's not indigenous.
No. I love that scene in The Sopranos. They try to tell the casino owner. They say, Iron Eyes Cody, he's Sicilian. And they, holy shit, is that true? Yeah, everyone knows that.
Right.
But anyway, my answer, and I'm being very
you don't
non-committal
care.
here.
Oh.
I just,
Well, that's also the third take you can have, which is, I don't give a fuck. But,
except what she did to her brother.
Yeah, also, I didn't like her, like, she knew this was dropping because she's known for a long time this was coming. And then right before it drops, the Fifth Estate, before that episode drops, she sort of does this, I know who I love and who loves me, and peace out. Like, she did this, and I don't think that's the move. I feel like the move is Buffy comes in the basement and talks to me, and we hash this out, and we find out what she knew when, and we, and maybe she apologizes, and maybe says, yeah, she's a pretendian, but maybe it comes from
I love that new word, by the way.
I know, I'm using it all the time now.
One.
She's a pretendian. So, Buffy, if you're listening, you could follow Mike Stafford's lead and take a trip in the basement, and we can talk about this.
Yeah, come on, Dan.
I don't want her to be killed or jailed. I just think we need to talk about this, and it can't just be I know who loves me and who I love, and peace out. We gotta have a conversation. Like, I don't think that's fair.
Well, I'm glad we're taking care of her problems. That's good.
And she can get maybe some pasta from. She is Italian. She'll know
she'll know good stuff.
She'll know good pasta. Shout out to Palm Pasta. Oh yeah, and quickly, I want to say. Unfortunately, Mike, you probably don't have a lot of money for investment right now, but when the cash fall comes your way, and hopefully it does at some point, I will just tell you there's a great podcast called Advantaged Investor from Raymond James Canada and Chris Cooksey. This is just great investment advice. You can learn how to plan, invest, and live smarter. So Raymond James Canada's The Advantaged Investor, hosted by Chris Cooksey. You gotta subscribe. And recyclemyelectronics.ca. Cliff Hacking was here recently. What a wonderful conversation with Cliff. He's the founder and CEO of recyclemyelectronics.ca, and that's where you go if you have old electronics, old cables, old tech that you need to dispose of. You don't throw it in the garbage and then all the chemicals end up in the landfill. You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca and find out a place near you where you can drop that off. That's what you do. Okay, here we go. We're comfy. We're feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have a measuring tape for you. This might change your life. Hold on. The least I can do. That's from Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of this community. And they have I gotta say, Brad Jones at Ridley Funeral Home, he's got a great podcast called Life's Undertaking that I get to co-host. We talked all about Monty Python and Spam-A-Lot in the most recent episode.
Oh,
yeah? It was really interesting. Yeah, because he saw it in Stratford. Very interesting. Okay. All right, Mr. Stafford, we talked about the physical health. Yours is unchanged, could be better. You've got the name of the disorder I cannot ever remember to say. You got to write it down phonetically. Okay. What is the status of your mental health? How are things going for you inside that big brain of yours?
Well, embarrassment, humiliation, obviously. I can't listen to radio anymore. I listen to 680 to get the traffic and the written at a grade 8 level news that they do.
Oh.
I still dream about work. Not as much as episode 1250, when I was telling you it was almost every frickin' day.
Right.
I still dream about work. I still, I'll see somebody on TV that, I remember interviewing them. I remember interviewing, just like every other old man sitting in the empty, seats at a baseball park just going, oh, there was a time you should have seen me when I was at the plate, and there were 3 on, and I had he was throwing heat.
It's like Al Bundy talking about that high school game.
That's one game, that one game. But the thing is, at least I think Bundy got to replay it, didn't he?
Right, he did, absolutely.
That's another thing, and I mentioned, do a podcast. Why don't you just apply for another station? You don't understand. One, this industry is dying, and I hate to say it. When I saying this industry, I mean, obviously terrestrial radio, as they call it. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. They give it important names. Like terrestrial radio. That sounds,
Right.
it sounds like something NASA put together.
It is an impressive term. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you hear those 3 stations in Hamilton were sold by Bell Media? I think the total cost to the new owner was something like $450,000. Like that doesn't even get you a condo in this city. But you could get 3 a.m., including Cham there. Yeah.
I saw that on the Sony board, and I kept thinking there's a 0 missing.
Yeah, I don't know if you said like guess what they're going to go for. I'm not sure what number I would have come up with, but I didn't think you could pick up all 3 for less than $500,000.
I guess
bucks.
that's but you said that they're Bell Media, right?
Well, Bell Media sold it, yeah.
Well, I can suck my. I can actually measure it now. Yeah, it'll work.
How is and again we breeze through the whole like people say, because yes, I get those notes too. Why doesn't Stafford have a podcast? Because people miss your voice and your take on things and they want to hear it, so they selfishly get Stafford. And I will say,
you want to live in a room with me with 2 beds and a bathroom?
You are welcome here anytime you want.
You will be sick of my voice. Believe me. Talk to my wife.
I don't think that's true. Maybe your wife would say so, but I will say that if I did anything I could do personally to help you, broadcast,
and I know you would.
I would. I just want you to know. Like if you said to me, I literally had the aforementioned Peter Gross, and if we talk long enough, you'll see him. But Peter Gross, literally, when he started his podcast, he needed to make money, and he had no cash for it. I did them for free until he monetized them, and then we talked about payment. But I would offer you the same.
Yeah, and you know what? Back to the mental part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
I can't freaking do it. Right now.
So yeah, back to your mental state.
My wife is sick, and
yeah. You're homeless, your wife has cancer, and you have no money. Anything else?
No, I could go to Nashville and record it and sell 1 million copies on Fox News.
Right.
I don't know. It's a pretty sad story, but
do you ever think, and before we dive further into that, do you ever think, well, shit could be worse?
Yeah.
Like the fact that, Jody still can enjoy a nice walk, right? Like things could be worse.
Absolutely. I mean, God love her. She's still in in pretty good pretty good shape. It's right now it's just the unknowing of the knowing.
But what about the pain? Like what did we do about the pain?
The pain is not an issue right now. That was mostly infection related back when this was involved when she first learned of it, thank God.
Okay.
I should say they've got a great website that you link into when you're dealing with Trillium Health Partners, and it gives you latest results, latest notes from doctors.
Yes.
And you really you can actually see the size of the nodules that they saw on the lymph node and stuff. Okay, what those are pretty small. It's pretty early. The doctor's not worried about the big mass. So there's some good stuff to come out of this.
So we have to hope the shading that we're hearing about, we just have to hope that, they could be other things, I guess, shading, obviously.
I had a ankylosing spondylitis is the thing I have. I actually went to the chiropractic college up on Bayview for a study of ankylosing spondylitis because it's obviously very chiropractic related.
Right.
And they did massive x-rays, which chiropractors do, as you all know. And this was when I was in my late 20s. They said they were very concerned about some spots on my lungs back then.
Right.
That's 40 years ago.
Right.
And I don't think I've quit smoking since then.
No. No, in fact, interestingly, the tragic news that Supriya experienced with her husband, and you mentioned that, he had lung cancer and didn't even smoke. It does beg the question, is there any part of you that thinks that if a longtime smoker gets lung cancer, that they deserve that? Like, this is not that they deserved it, because no one deserves cancer, but that comes with the territory in some regard. It's what did you expect?
I mean, that's one of the old standbys of talk radio. You run out of ideas. Should people diagnosed with, smoking or drinking related diseases lose their OHIP privileges? No, because it's the system we work under.
Not only that, but it is an addiction. Like, you're not smoking for shits and giggles, right? Like, I mean, you speak for yourself, but you're addicted to nicotine, right?
Yeah. It's not an easy recidivism rate for nicotine withdrawal is higher than heroin.
Right.
So, no, it's not an easy thing to quit. And same with drinking. It's the same with the booze. So,
All right. On the mental health front, Mr. Stafford, we talked very openly and honestly in episode 1250 about, any thoughts of like ending it all, and maybe this was a way to help the family if you exit stage right. And I'm, for one, glad you have never done this, and I'm glad you're still here, and I hope you never do this. But I need to ask how you're doing on that, in that regard.
Well, you just weigh the pros and the cons, and there's not a lot of pros. There's not a lot of cons either. It's one of those zero-sum games that, does anybody win? Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just get so damn frustrated. But now that Jody's in the situation, I can't even consider it.
Well, there's a silver lining.
She's got a battle. She's got a battle. She needs someone with her right now. There's not a lot of family support, it seems. We both lost our parents. So yeah, you got to be there. You got to be there. And that's what I've always said about that situation when people start thinking those thoughts, that there's somebody, it could be one person who needs you. Even though, the dark nights, or me, it's the early mornings, it seems, because I'm so used to waking up at 3:30.
Right.
You start wondering, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point? You go, well, she's the point, or the kid's the point, or my sister's the point. My sisters are the points as well, because they're both, in physical issues that they're dealing with as well. So, yeah, I would say I'm in a better headspace there. It just doesn't put food on my table.
No. But that is key. I mean, you wake up every morning, there's another opportunity for things to turn around, for things to improve.
I love falling asleep. I don't know about you. When you're feeling shit,
right?
When you're going through shit, that nighttime, maybe you're taking a night hall or something to help, but just to get your eyes closed, and then that time when you open in the morning, you open your eyes and it's, oh shit, it's another day.
Oh man, that's tough to hear that, actually. But the fact is, you're not going to off yourself, Stafford. I'm not going to be adding you to the Ridley Funeral Home Memorial episode anytime
my
soon.
Tape. Do you want me to write my name on it?
All right, this is good. And in those dark times, always remember, not only, of course, you talked about Jody and the 15-year-old, et cetera, but there are, I know from the notes I received after episode 1250 that there are so many people out there who care about you. I mean, there are people who listen to you, every weekday for years and years. You were like a member of their family, and they loved your take, your spin, how your brain works, and they love your voice. And we need that around as long as possible. There's a lot of us who care about it. And I care about you, man. Honestly, you called me a turd in my basement, and you know what? I'm still a Stafford fan. So.
Yeah, I got an expanded GLB case as well.
So yes, so we did take a short break. And yes, there's an 8-pack now.
And thank you to everyone who did write. The other stuff we were talking about, it was polarizing. But I found that there were people who were like, Corus are the most evil company that's ever existed. They're worse than the people that at the chemical company that polluted Love Canal in New York. No, they're not. They were very good to me for 20 years, and then shit happened.
They were good to you until they weren't.
And then there are the people on the other side who, for whatever reason, probably, I say, this is, I couldn't believe, this is what you reap what you sow, Mike. You spent years as the most right-wing, ideological shithead. Then why were people calling me a cuck when I worked with Supriya? Right. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways, man. Right. Was I Sean Hannity, or was I,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another Sean Lennon.
That'll do. Very interesting to hear the reaction, and we'll see what the reaction is to this. But in that last episode, one of the things you did was you gave out your email address.
Yeah.
And again, you talked about, feeling ashamed, and maybe like at this point, I would say that that ship has sailed. We got to get you to whatever comes out of this lawsuit and into brighter days. Like you're living day to day here in a motel.
Yeah.
Your wife can't work because she has cancer. I mean, this is, tough times for the Stafford family. There might be one or two people listening who would help you out here financially, and they could email money to an address if you drop the address right now.
Yeah, or you know what? If you want to send me a note of support, because I know it's tough out there. It is really tough. I, with the limited money I have, going shopping is, talk about feeling suicidal.
No, yeah, it's tough for anyone, and particularly tough for your family. But yeah, so of course you don't have to send money. You can just send a note of encouragement.
But if you
or
wish
support.
to,
you're not going to say no.
The e-transfer it's my Bell address. It's Michael MICHAEL .Stafford STAFFORD at bell.net. Michael.Stafford at bell.net. If you can help out, I God love you. People talk about it. It's such such a bromide. I'm going to pay it forward. If I get out of this, freaking right I have. I've always, because sometimes I just look at Jody in the morning. I said, what did I do in my life, or past lives, if you believe in that shit? What did I do that we're like this right now? Because I try to get along with people at work. I've always volunteered. I'm not obviously without sin, but you question sometimes, especially at this age. Mike, I'm 63, man. I should be like Ivor Hamilton, all my old buddies, and wrapping up great careers, great guys like, hello, Michael, David Marsden,
right?
Who's still kicking ass, by the way.
Yep. NYTheSpirit.com.
Yeah, which unfortunately, David, I had to unsubscribe because everything's kind of tight right now, but I still watch those songs on YouTube. Put me in a very happy place back in the 80s at CFNY. Is
that feel good? What is it? Is it Mad Men, where Don talks about nostalgia, and Teddy, and he talks about this pang where it's like you look back, but it's not all great looking back. Like there's this pang. Like when you think back to the CFNY days, and even the 640 days and everything in between, does that hurt because it's gone, or do you think like you're glad that happened?
I'm glad it happened. Is a perfect way of putting it. I'm not a believer in I have no regrets in my life. I'm not Frank Sinatra. Regrets, I've had a few.
Paul Anka wrote that, though.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He did. It's life is filled with regrets, but sometimes even regrets are great to remember, because they it hammer homes the point that don't do that again. Don't do that. Don't treat people that way, et cetera, et cetera. I had great times at CFNY. I had some great times at CFRB. I had some horrible times at CFRB. Mm-hmm. Corus, horrible times at times. In fact, two of the gentlemen who were involved, and I'm not blaming them for what happened because I obviously started it, they're gone now. They were cut. Jeff Story and Larry Gifford.
Okay.
They were fired back in June. Now, they didn't go out the way I did, and I'm sure they got some nice red envelopes, but it's a cutthroat business. And if I didn't say it in episode 1250, I'll repeat it in, what is this, 1330?
1373.
1373. What a great year of medieval crap. If your kid mentions, Mom, I want to be in stop them. Stop them. Take them to a hockey rink, something, even though, one out of 10,000 kids make it to hockey?
I'd probably lower, who knows, but
yeah. Get into podcasting like this dude. I'm not pointing at me.
This guy. Don't let your kids grow up. Don't let your babies grow up to be radio broadcasters. It
used to be a great gig. It used to be a great job. It was. I've always agreed with Howard Stern, though, when he said that radio, in terms of the entertainment hierarchy, radio on-air people are like the redheaded stepchild.
Worked out for him, but he's the 0.001%.
Yeah, but I don't think he's happy, so screw him.
Man, I was listening to him the other day. I don't have Sirius XM, but I borrowed a car, a Hyundai Palisade, because I drove to Montreal with
you
the
went to
family.
Montreal,
to see my daughters living there, and it was a great trip. But it had Sirius XM in it, so I tune in Howard, and he's talking to Dolly Parton, and then I had this moment of like, oh, Howard does with Dolly Parton what I do with people like Mike Stafford. So essentially, I think Dolly doesn't come in the basement, but I get Peter Kent in the basement. I'll get Mike Stafford in the basement, and I'll get John Donaby down here. And by the way, Donaby, he's another Dylan guy. So we got to get Donaby and Honickman together.
The band is his big thing.
Oh yeah, he was at the Last Waltz.
Yeah.
They just did this Massey Hall thing. I'm over here. Don Stevenson. Are you a Moby Grape fan?
Moby Grape? What'd they have, like one album?
They had more than that, but absolutely. I think a lot of people in their 60s, I said, I have the drummer from Moby Grape coming on, and a lot of them were like, I don't know Moby Grape at all. This is one of those bands that just was completely forgotten. Anyway, they did this tribute to the Last Waltz at Massey Hall about a week ago. But I digress. Okay. So since you were here 6 months ago, I've got thorough updates from people. You mentioned Ivor Hamilton, like Alan Cross, and I've had these updates regarding the CFNY documentary, which sounds like we're going to be able to see this documentary in 2024.
Is this going to be vaporware, as they used to say in the software industry? No offense to Scott Turner and all the great guys who are good friends. We were anyway. It's just like, what are they saying now? Fall of 2024?
Yeah, that's about when. I think they're trying to get it like in TIFF. So yeah, fall 2024.
Well, they sound like they're having to completely self-finance and carry this thing physically.
So maybe you know more than me. I feel like I know. I don't know what Corus's role. I know you love talking about Corus, but I'm curious if anyone talked to you for this documentary. Did they? Because they talked to people adjacent to you in the CFNY history.
Scott Turner reached out to me and said, would you be interested in maybe doing and quite honestly, no. As I don't know what Freddie would say.
Well, he did talk to.
Well, he should, because he became a star. A star,
with
right?
Humble, yeah.
With Humble, and even before that with Steve.
Right.
But I was the news guy, for God's sakes, and I left in '87. I left before it kind of.
But this is covered, as far as I understand. This is not the ongoing history of CFNY, if you will. It's like about the spirit of radio CFNY, and maybe they leak past Marsden into the early to mid '90s. But
that's way beyond me. Yeah, that's way beyond. And quite truthfully, I was just the guy who did the voices, did some writing, and did the news. The stars were Earl Jive and Jim Reed and Marsden and Pete and Geets. So you said no. I said, yeah, thanks, but no. But I'm really looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, it should be available in 20. Well, I think it's coming along. There's a lot. They're trying to get some big musical acts to kind of round it out. Some CFNY bands, if you will. But,
the music costs alone, the licensing.
Right.
My God.
Can you have a CFNY doc and not license How Soon Is Now? Like a second, right?
I don't. I remember.
You get a sound alike.
I remember when I first got Netflix and I was watching everything they had, and I watched a Bowie documentary. They didn't license any of his music.
Right.
I'm watching the three same old women talk about David.
David Jones was his name, and he lived down the street.
Right.
And then they're playing some sort of, I don't know, studio recreated.
Like a sound alike? That's a big
the
move.
sound alike shit they do. Yes,
shit,
exactly. Yeah.
Like when you, I haven't experienced
this. There's a car man driving down the road.
The Wonder Years had a big problem licensing their music, and
WKRP.
That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to get the actual
get
DVDs.
Kiss in there and the Who.
Kiss and the Who.
I love WKRP. I also love the Wonder Years. If you go on YouTube, you can find that they instead of "Light My Fire" by the Doors, they have a sound alike, like some other song singing about fire that might sound like it's from the 60s or whatever. Not quite the same thing, but my goodness gracious. But Mike Stafford, it's been 6 months, so we're saying goodbye now, but it's been 6 months since you were on a microphone, right? Like, did you get on a mic between 1250 and 1373?
A couple of times, Dundas and Dixie at the Walmart.
I was like, where is, yes.
And actually, you know what? 11 Division, they put you up free for the night. So it worked out well.
Get your mail forwarded to 11 Division, Mike. Okay.
Michael.Stafford@bell.net.
So, yes, if you love Stafford, you write him there. If you have some money to spare in this holiday season, send him some hate money. Michael.Stafford@bell.net. I will, again, broker that deal with Anthony. Anthony wants to take care of you and your family with some fresh hot pasta. So that's happening 100%. I just got off the phone with him. He's a sweetheart. They're good people there. Any final thoughts? And you're back on a mic. You miss this feeling, like even the fact that you can hear your voice in the headphones. It's been a while. Like, how is it feeling to be here? And will you come back in 6 months and tell us how everything got better?
Well, I would hope that if it's going to get better, I will be closer than 6 months.
Yeah, that's true. Be optimistic.
Secondly, Michael, I got to say, or Mike.
Either or.
Sitting here, headphones on. What are these Sennheisers again?
Yeah, the Sennheiser cans, yeah. They weren't that expensive either. I've had them 10 years. They were like $17, but then they stopped making them because it was too good a value. You got to spend the $90 now to get these headphones.
Oh,
I know.
Isn't your life
better,
bad?
And on that note, the light just came on here. Okay, finish that thought though.
Very quickly, you make me feel 15 years younger coming down talking to you, man. And that is very important to me. Thank you, Mike.
You want to hit me with some Simpsons trivia? No, don't do it, actually. I don't want to embarrass myself.
What episode did Baby Gerald first appear?
Oh, that's the Unibrow, right?
That's Unibrow Baby Gerald. What
Great
episode?
question. It's an early episode.
It is.
And I don't even have
The title of the episode is a takeoff on a movie that Melvin Van Peebles, Sweet Sweetbacks.
Oh, the Skinner's, the badass song. This is a Skinner episode.
Sweet Skinner's, yes, when he gets fired.
Yes, right. I love that episode. That's where he's trying to choose which detergent to wash his clothes in, and then Bart sees he's a civilian. I'm a civilian now. That's a great episode.
Well, that and Burns trying to decide, is it ketchup? Catsup.
Yes.
Ketchup.
How long does that show go, considering they haven't lost a principal voice? We talked about Phil Hartman earlier with Attorney at Law. And they have lost Marsha Wallace, and there's been some yes. But the core group still alive, even though somebody's in their 80s, I'd say. Is it Shearer in his 80s?
Shearer's got to be close to 80.
He's got to be in his 80s. My question for you on the outs here is, if somebody, let's say, sadly, somebody in the principal voice cast passes away, does Disney replace them? Does Disney get an AI to do it? Does Disney just write? I mean, it could be a principal character. You can't write out Homer or Marge. What happens to The Simpsons when that happens?
Well, much like I said about Bell, Disney can suck my... No, I mean, the right move would be to kill it, but they wouldn't.
Disney wouldn't do that, right?
No, if there's money to be made...
If there's money to be made, send it to michael.stafford@bell.net. Mike, thanks for doing this. It's always makes me happy to see you. And hopefully it's much sooner than 6 months for another update. And hopefully that update's a little better than this one. Although I wish you much luck on the legal front with Corus. We're all rooting for you.
Thank you all. And thank you, Mike.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,373rd show. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm at Toronto Mike. Don't follow Stafford on Twitter. He blew that up. You can learn more about that in 1250. We find out why Stafford blew up his Twitter account. But he is on Facebook, so you can follow Michael Stafford on Facebook. I want to give some love to everyone who made this possible. That is, of course, Great Lakes Brewery, Palma Pasta, Raymond James Canada, Moneris, Recycle My Electronics, and Ridley Funeral Home. See you all tomorrow, because you don't get to hear Peter Gross. That's a secret episode that's going to be dropped later this month. But tomorrow is another episode of Toast. We're kicking out Radio Jams. We'll dedicate it to Mike Stafford here. We're kicking out Radio Jams. It's Rob Pruce from Spoons. CFNY played a lot of Spoons. And Bob Willett, who worked as a producer for Humble and Fred on CFNY.
Bingo Bob.
Bingo Bob. So Bingo Bob, Rob Pruce in the basement tomorrow at 7. It'll live stream at live.torontomike.com. We're kicking out Radio Jams. See you all then.
Stocks, the class struggle explodes. And I play this guitar just the best that I can. Well, maybe I'm not, and maybe I am. Who gives a damn, because everything is coming up rosy and green. Yeah, the wind is cold, but the smell of snow like mine.